Hey, hello, and welcome to the OnStage Colorado Podcast for February 3rd. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the show. This week on the podcast, we are going to be talking through some of the shows that we've recently seen, some theater news, as well as upcoming performances that are on our radar. Then a little bit later in the show, we are going to share an interview that you did, Alex, with Dr. Tom Williams. That's right. We got a PhD on the podcast. He is an associate professor of computer science at the Colorado School of the Mines and a local improviser who is debuting a new show, Robot Riot, the Robot Comedy Hour at Rise Comedy in Denver this Friday, February 6th. What can you tease about that interview, Alex?
Oh, wow. This is one of the coolest interviews I've done in a while because, like you said, we don't often talk to, usually if we're talking to college professors, they're theater folks.
That's right.
Tom is definitely, but he lives in this interesting world where he's, his day job is computers and he loves to do improv. He's an improv guy as well. And he was like, I wonder how I can marry these two worlds. And so the conversation is just about, kind of how, how all that came about. And apparently Rise really liked the idea because it's going to be a monthly thing all the way through, the beginning of next year. So Robot Riot. And Andy and I are going to go to it on Friday. I'm really excited it sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
I'm going to be at Godspeed on Friday. Otherwise, I would check it out. But like you mentioned, luckily it's a monthly show at Rise. So I'm going to try to hit it a future iteration because it just sounds like a whole heck of a lot of fun. But more on Robot Riot a little bit later in the show when we'll get to hear from Dr. Tom Williams. But to kick things off, let's start by discussing some of the shows we saw this weekend.
Yeah, so I only got to one, but it was a real banger. I really liked it. It was the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company's production of Brooklyn Laundry, which is a newer play by John Patrick Shanley. Is it John Patrick Shanley? And directed by, all right. I'm going to get official here and get the freaking program so I know what I'm talking about. Yes, it is John Patrick Shanley. It was directed by Alison Watrous, who most people know. Her name is associated with the children's programs at the Denver Center, but also a director of adult things as well. And she did, I thought, a great job with this. And this had a really, really nice cast. It had Annie Barber just really knocked it out of the park. And Kate Gleason, Jess Robley, who's the artistic director, Betsy, and also Torsten Hillhouse, who was, really, really great cast, really powerful story, funny, tragic, and great set of a laundromat by Tina Anderson. Really, really good one. And I'm actually not reviewing this one. Danielle Riha is going to be doing this one, so we'll see what she has to say about it.
Always nice to go to a little theater with no homework.
That's right. Yeah.
This weekend, I was very busy. I went to see 5 different shows all across the state. I did not do my car any favors this weekend.
You were north, you were south, you're north, you're in Fort Collins, you're in Colorado Springs, you're everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah, I started up north in Johnstown to check out Candlelight Dinner Theater's production of Hello, Dolly. And this really is their bread and butter. It's a classic golden age musical comedy. It's really well directed by Carrie Colton, who does a lot of work with the company up there. It's got really splashy, funny, quirky choreography from Christy Zimmerman, who uses this really large cast to her benefit. The costumes are splendid, and it's got a really impressive cast. At times, Colton's vision, she's kind of really leaned into the cartoony aspects of Hello, Dolly, which is this wild tale about a matchmaker who's trying to find life again after her first husband passed away. And she's doing all these antics. It's very silly. And occasionally, sometimes she milks it a little bit. Like she has this ongoing thing in which the orchestra will kind of every now and then accent certain jokes with a sound effect, but it's not really consistent or like tied to anything. And it's just one kind of element that was a bit unnecessary in a production that was already so polished and working so well.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed reading your review about that. It sounds like a really great production.
Yeah, over it really was. Don't let that kind of minor quibble detract you from seeing this. It is a really splendid production, really anchored by Melissa Williams as the titular Dolly. She's really witty and charismatic while also kind of playing the subtext of being this woman who is later in her life. She has lost her husband, and as she kind of alludes to her meaning to live. And so she's using this matchmaking as a way to reemerge in society, and you really feel that joy when she is able to reemerge because, spoiler alert, it's a musical comedy. Everything works out well.
Right.
Then I went to see something completely different. I went to see a little Beckett over at the Aurora Fox. I saw Waiting for Godot on its opening night. This was directed by Rodney Liscano, and it stars very familiar names in the scene: Matthew Murray and Andrew Eulenhop, as the kind of the two leads in this comedy about waiting. Comedy is perhaps not the right word. It's this very
Yeah.
abstract, highly meta theatrical story that kind of is very repetitive in nature. And this is a very faithful production of it. It doesn't add any kind of contemporary overlay or any splashy gimmicks to kind of try to sexy it up or make it more accessible to audiences. And I think some folks are going to struggle with that. I heard that in the lobby on opening night when some folks were talking at intermission, and they were like, "Oh, only one more hour of this. I'm not sure I'm getting everything." And that's Beckett for you. It is dense, it is confusing, but if you're interested in seeing a really well done piece of absurdist theater, Murray and Eulenhop are sharp actors under the skillful direction of Liscano, really making a meal of this language. It's dense, it's confusing, it's heady. You probably won't understand everything. I've seen the show multiple times, and there are still parts that I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure what they're doing when they're all sticking at the ground at the end. Like
Yeah.
it is confusing, and intentionally so. It's asking you to kind of question what you accept in a theatrical space, but just know that it might be a bit of a challenge for audience members who are not as keen on absurdist experimental theater.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I might get over and see that one, just because it's so easy to see those two actors in those roles, and I do love that play.
It's yeah. If you like this play, and I know you do, it's a really excellent production of it. And yeah, like those two actors really are a compelling reason to see it. And then the whole production just looks really great. It's outfitted with some really sparse but effective scenic design. It's got these projections in the back that are sparsely used but really effectively transition from like the day scene that's vaguely Western immediately to night, and that really striking full moon that like then occupies a vast majority of the space. It's very effective.
And then you, took a trip down to Colorado Springs where you saw a couple of shows, one good, one maybe not so good.
That's right. Yeah, I went and I saw Where We Stand at Theater Works and The Children by Springs Ensemble Theater. Where We Stand is the Colorado debut of Donetta Lavinia Gray's one-person play. And while I thought that the play featured some really impressive design, particularly the scenic
Yeah, it was
design.
really cool from the pictures, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. It was by Yvenia Miranda, and the whole play is kind of set in this sandy, grassy environment that has shallow pools of water surround this glowing green mound center stage, while like tree-like things hang from the rafters, and there's this brown curtain in the back that evokes this really textured, wood-like environment. It's really incredible. It seems like a great place to hear a story, but unfortunately, the story really struggles to hold attention due to um, the actor at the center of it, Alex Campbell. There were some diction problems. They're asked to play not only the titular man at the center of this story, but also all of the town figures and this devilish person with whom they enter a bargain. and sing and lead a lot of audience interaction. And the transitions between characters were not clear. The audience interaction was kind of forced and did not really click on the matinee performance that I attended. It really felt like Campbell was pulling teeth to kind of get people to hum and then sing the lyrics and then read off of cue cards from a microphone that didn't work. And so people couldn't hear anything that was happening there. And so it was just all in all, it led to a production that had really cool ambition and was visually striking, but the storytelling just got lost in the sauce.
Yeah, it almost sounded like it was kind of awkward. Uh,
It was
if that
very,
wasn't,
very
yeah,
awkward in places because and you could see that it was not landing with other audience members as well because it was staged in a thrust environment and they would often have the house lights come on so you could see how everybody was reacting to this and or not really reacting or engaging in this case, unfortunately. I wonder if the performance would have been more effective with an audience who was more engaged, who really did pick up and bite on those moments of audience interactivity, but that just did not happen at my performance. And you can't rely on the audience to sell the moments of audience
no,
interactivity. That's got to
yeah,
be performer generated.
yep, yep. And what
So
about
that one
the
was not,
children? Yeah,
yeah. So that one wasn't super effective. On the other hand, I quite enjoyed The Children. I had seen this play once before. Boulder Ensemble Theater Company did this show back in 2022. It was one of the first things I saw
I was gonna say
when
I
I
wasn't even sure
started
you were here
working in
then,
the
but
theater
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
It was one of the very first shows, and this is a really smart show for the Springs Ensemble Theater Company. They have since fall 2023, they've been working in the 59er Speakeasy, which is this small space in the back of a game shop in downtown Colorado Springs. It's a really intimate environment, and this show, which is all set in a house with three retired nuclear physicists after a kind of nuclear meltdown event happens in the outside world. They're kind of debating their past, and one character, Rose, who is played by Amaya August-Quiza, she comes in with kind of she has a secret. She's clearly hiding something. She's not telling anybody why she's actually there until near the very end when she kind of realized she tells people that she's assembling this team of nuclear scientists to go and help clean up so that the next generation doesn't have to pay for their actions. It's
Yeah.
as staged by the Springs Ensemble. It's a really perfect setting for the 59er speakeasy environment. You are right in that. You feel like you're sitting at the kitchen table with these characters
Uh-huh.
and with this three-person cast. That's kind of exactly what you want. You want to feel
Right.
like you're in this environment. Madeline Rilling does a really nice job directing this. All of the performers are really game. I particularly enjoyed Diana Mann's performance as Hazel, who is kind of this. She's one half of the couple who Rose is going to visit, and she never gets to really say what's on her mind as written in the script. She's always hiding something. She clearly knows her husband is being unfaithful on her, but she's not going to say anything about it because that would mean she'd lose some bargaining points. And so instead, you see what she's thinking through her clearly delivered actions and reactions by Mann. Just really, really sharp work from her here. My
Yeah.
only kind of yeah, my
I was
only
just gonna
kind
say
of
it's an
note
interesting
about the
story. Just
production. Go ahead. Yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say was
No, no.
what from what I recall about it, there's that kind of that's I don't know, sci-fi or that, that horrible element of the nuclear thing and then layered in this love triangle and it's kind of old skeletons from the closet coming back to haunt this couple. It's a very layered script. It's very interesting.
Definitely, yeah, because like you just mentioned, they don't really even drop the nuclear bomb in the plot, so to speak, until the very, very end.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is just them picking at old wounds and being rehashing the glory days or reminiscing about stuff. And it's really interesting to just kind of think about it and think about what you might do in this situation.
All right. And so Burning Bluebeard is a new Catamounts production. And I was like, am I right in thinking the Catamounts have been kind of prolific in the last year? Like they're doing more productions than they normally do? It seems like they've got a new one coming out every couple of months.
I think they've just been really consistently producing like 4 shows a year at this point, more
Uh-huh.
give or take, which is definitely does feel like it's slightly up from particularly like after the years right after the pandemic when shows were definitely down. But yeah, this is another production from the Cats, and it is another banger from them.
Right.
As we talked about on our Oscars award, the Cats have really kind of been holding down the fort when it comes to producing sharp, smart, or immersive work. And this is a little bit less immersive, or and like and a little bit less immersive than some of their previous work. It's staged in a traditional proscenium setting. It's about this Chicago theater fire. It's based on a script that's been performed in other places, but it's still got that zany Cats spirit. The whole thing is highly meta theatrical as you're watching this 6-person troupe of actors kind of share the story of they were all working during when the Chicago fire happened, doing this pantomime about Bluebeard. Very silly. They just want to do that, but instead their show has become the face of tragedy. And so how is that kind of this thing that's supposed to bring joy, theater, as kind of this overarching metaphor, is really kind of now marred by this awful thing. There's other things that are coming in and making it impossible to not think about that. It's very timely. It's very funny. It's all directed in this outrageous kind of commedia dell'arte circus style. Definitely some vaudeville elements in there. Everybody in the show plays at least 2 parts. They have a part where they're playing their kind of person who is working, and then they cut into the actual Bluebeard show, and that's very highly stylized as well. I just think it all really works together. There's a lot of moving pieces. There are so many sound cues. I think there's got to have been at least 85 different sound cues, if not more, which is a lot for a show that's only about 90 minutes long.
Uh-huh.
It-
And where's
and
this
so
staged?
it's being staged at the Dairy Art Center in the
Oh, okay.
Carson Theater. Um, yeah, it's so
It's not in an old
they
museum in Longmont or something?
not this time. No, no. Um, they've done work here before. This is where they've done a lot of their
Sure.
feed
Yeah.
shows in the past. But this just really is on a whole nother level than those feed shows, which are a little bit more simplistic in their design and less ambitious, just by in terms of their scale. That's just what they're trying to accomplish. A
Right.
little bit less, and this show is just super elaborately produced, really engaging. It's got a really incredible story to tell here, and a cast of 6 Colorado actors who are just doing a really impressive job creating this richly textured theatrical environment.
All right. Well, that sounds great. Look forward
Yeah,
to
I'm
reading your
working on my
review
review of
about
that
that. Yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, awesome. Well, I guess we can move on to the news now. And so I noticed you've got a Shrek update. So this is like the hot topic in Colorado theater the last 2 weeks is the production of Shrek the Musical, a controversy at the Pace Center. So what's the latest?
That's right. Yeah. It's been impossible to log on social media without seeing a Shrek hot take over the past couple of weeks. And I mean, we're also guilty of that. Last week on the
Yeah.
podcast, our main topic was the fallout from Parker Art's request, not demand, I'll note, request to remove the pride flags from Freak Flag in their production of Shrek the Musical, currently running at the Pace Center, after it received an unspecified variety of complaints regarding the inclusion of those pride flags. And we talked about how the cast decided to publicly protest that request by breaking the fourth wall in the middle of the musical, which then went very, very viral on not just Colorado social media, but national media as well, which was kind of wild. And then we kind of talked about how there was still a lot that was unknown about why this request was made and what the long-term consequences were going to be from the cast decision to publicly protest by stopping the show. And friend of the podcast and senior arts journalist John Moore wrote a follow-up story to his original piece that he reported on the Shrek situation, in which he interviewed Mike Wade, who is a former 2-term Republican mayor of Parker and a cast member of Shrek the Musical, which is quite a combination.
Yes.
Did you get a chance to read John's story?
I did, yeah, yeah. I thought it was very interesting, and it was also I commented on John's on his Facebook post of it, like what a great writer he is. It was such a great summary of the whole thing, and it was just I don't know. I really enjoyed reading. It was a really nice piece of journalism and reporting that he did about that to bring sort of some more light on this whole thing.
And kind of urged people to not just reduce this to kind of simple culture wars and just immediately go into your corners and
Yeah,
and use this as an opportunity to create more division. There's a lot of nuance here, and there is a lot that we still don't know about what the fallout is going to be from this in the town of Parker, at the Pace Center for the people who work at Parker Arts. And I think that this is, as John was kind of using this piece to point out, this could be a chance for us to kind of put our differences aside and be like, yeah, this was kind of not a great response. Let's figure out how to move forward. Instead, it's kind of become a hate campaign on both sides. No matter if
ugh,
you're either
yeah,
if you support the actors, everybody here is a terrible big. Everybody on the Parker town of Parker is a terrible bigot who is trying to muzzle them, and they were going to cancel the show, which is wrong. And then on the other side, you have a lot of just terrible actual bigotry being about just like the inclusion of anything LGBTQ plus, which is also vile and disgusting. And so I really thought his piece did a nice job of being a really nuanced, level headed take on what is ultimately an incredibly messy situation.
yeah. Gosh. Well, hopefully it'll blow over soon, and the show will be, I think, is last weekend coming up, so maybe things will die down, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And while we don't necessarily know the future of what Parker Art's working with local groups to produce shows like they did with Sasquatch Production to do Shrek the Musical, the other notable thing that John's piece did provide is a little bit more clarity about why Lutheran High School, which is a private Christian school in Parker, who is an ongoing sponsor of Parker Art's is theatrical program, pulled a significant amount of money over this production. As he reported on Friday, January 23rd, which is the same day that the cast made their statement in protest during the show, but this is before that. The high school sent out a statement to parents thanking those members of the community who brought to the administration's attention the show's inclusion of content that, quote, does not align with our mission and values, unquote. And then they went on to say that they were going to be talking to Parker about these requests. Then came the speech. Everybody shared it with them. And according to confidential sources, John Moore said that it was that act of the cast actually publicly protesting and tying the flags to a rallying cry for the queer community that promoted the high school to tell Carrie Glassburn, the arts admin person over at Parker Arts, that the school was going to pull its fiscal sponsorship, which it did.
Yeah. It's funny, I always thought of Lutherans as kind of like a cooler, uh, sect of Christianity, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was a interesting statement that they shared, and that the, I guess, inclusion of pride flags does not align with the mission and values of Lutheran High School. I mean, I think that's got to be really sad for any members of the queer community who are over at Lutheran High School to see their
Yeah.
high school saying that they don't support that. Um,
How is that not
I,
aligned with what is your mission? You know?
yeah, I
I don't know.
really, I found that to be a really kind of under discussed part of the whole situation, which is why I wanted to talk about it here, is because I just found that to be really a sad thing for school people who are working with kids to say that, yeah, and I just wish it would be a little bit more empathetic and be like, okay, yeah, maybe that you're going to get some complaints from parents, but like, is it really worth it to then alienate people who might be queer and go to your school?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. All right. Well, what else have you got?
Yeah, switching gears on a totally different note, Denver comedian Adam Caton Hollins had a film debut at Sundance this past Tuesday. The film is called See You When I See You, which is based on his award winning memoir, Tragedy Plus Time. And it is about coming to the loss of his sister and his best friend to suicide. It's based on Adam's real life experience. And all 5 of the scheduled in person screenings at Sundance sold out pretty much
Wow.
immediately, which is incredible to see for this film, which is written by Adam himself and is directed by Jay Duplass. There is no release date for this so far, but it got a lot of really positive reviews. So here's hoping that it finds a distributor.
Yeah, that's really cool. That a Denver comedian had that kind of exposure at Sundance. Wow. OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Aurora Fox Arts Center, presenting Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot, January 30th through February 22nd. Hilarious, heartbreaking, and ultimately deeply moving, the play stands as one of the great achievements in the Western canon of dramatic literature, brought to life in a bold new production. Tickets at aurorafoxartscenter.org. We're also supported by the Colorado Springs Fine Arts Center at Colorado College, presenting The Roommate by Jen Silverman, February 12th through March 1st. This funny and deeply moving play examines the complexities that arise between two very different women and how they navigate changing senses of identity, relevance, and the possibility of reinvention. Tickets at fac.coloradocollege.edu. OnStage Colorado receives support from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, whose production of John Patrick Shanley's Brooklyn Laundry runs January 30th through February 15th at the Savoy Denver and February 20th through March 15th at the Dairy Arts Center in Boulder. Tragic and funny by turns, this deeply romantic story will remind you what is important in life and the sorrow and joy of fully embracing adulthood. Tickets at betc.org.
Yeah, he's folks might know Adam. He's 1/3 of the trio, the Grolics, who perform monthly at the Bug
Right.
Theater, among other places. And they also did that sitcom television series, Those Who Can't. So he is no stranger to Hollywood, but this is definitely definitely a feature film. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then finally, up now on Stage Colorado, budding journalist Katie McFadden, who is a Wheat Ridge 7th grader and an avid theater goer, actor, and dancer, wrote a preview about Junie B. Jones, the musical, which is at the Arvada Center. She got to interview director Matt Zambrano. What more can you tell us about that story, Alex, as well as your personal connection to this writer?
Yes. Well, Kate is my granddaughter, and she's 13, and she's very interested. She writes for her school paper, and I was just Leslie from Arvada Center had reached out about this show, and I was like, oh, it might be fun to like interview Matt. And take the girls to go see it because her younger sister came along too, and so they both had questions from Matt, and he was very gracious, and it was really fun talking to him. And I love, I've trained a lot of journalists in my day, and I thought, what the heck, I'd like to see her, step up her game, and I helped her, create the story from the interview. And a lot of back and forth to get it to where it needed to be, but that's one thing that you always have to do with young people, no matter what it is you need to push them maybe earlier than you think they are ready to do something, and see what comes of it. And she did a great job. So it's a fun story on there. And it's a really fun show if you've got kids and you want to go see it. It's up for a few months at the Arvada Center. It's about this precocious first grader Junie B. Jones, and it's a very, very fun little musical, small cast musical, very bright color, bright set, bright everything. It's all peppy and perky and fun. So that's going on there.
Yeah, I thought Kate did a really great job with the piece. Lots of really cool quotes from Matt. He was clearly very generous with his time.
Yeah. It's always fun to hear where people started, and he was actually talking about how one of the first shows he remembers seeing as a kid was at the Arvada Center. I think it was a production of the 101 Dalmatians, and he remembers some elements of it, and he wanted to bring that back. He wanted to be able to come back around and create those kinds of memories for a new generation of kids checking out theater. So that was really cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we are going to throw to a conversation that you had, Alex, with the producer and host of the brand new comedy show, Robot Riot, debuting at Rise Comedy on February 6th and reoccurring every first Friday of the month after that, Dr. Tom Williams.
Oh, right. Well, we are here with Dr. Tom Williams from the Colorado School of Mines about something that takes fair amount of explaining. But thanks for being on the OnStage Colorado podcast, Tom.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So when I got this press release from Rise Comedy, where this event is going to be taking place, I was reading through it and I was like, "Holy shit! There's a lot to take in here," because so you are a human robot interaction researcher, robot ethicist at the School of Mines Interactive Robotics Research Lab, or MIRROR. And you're also an improv comedian, so I can see how you were thinking, So can you tell me a little bit? So something real quick. So this is going to be something called Robot Riot, the Robot Comedy Hour. It'll be premiering February 6th at Rise Comedy in the Ballpark District in Denver, and running first Fridays through all the way into next January, I think. So where did this come from? Well, first, can you tell me just a little bit about the Mirror Lab and
Yeah.
what that does?
Yeah, the Mirror Lab is my research lab at Colorado School of Mines. We're an interactive robotics research lab. So we study how people interact with robots, how we can design robots to be more effective in social interactions. And this is through a wide variety of means. Some of what we do is algorithmic, right? Designing algorithms for robot language understanding and generation, inspired by cognitive psychology. I'm a cognitive psychologist, or a cognitive scientist by training, sort of the intersection of cognitive psychology and computer science. Some of it is much more qualitative, doing interviews with local stakeholders, for example, folks who work at local organizations that serve unhoused communities to understand what their needs are and ways that robots might be able to support them. And some of what we do is very design focused. So I've got some students who are doing work, for example, with survivors of domestic abuse and designing robots that help them to practice disclosure. And across this whole breadth, um, I think there are interesting connections to improvisation in comedic or non-comedic ways. Some of that is more implicit. So I think that whenever we're designing interactive robots that engage through language, we're designing robots that improvise, right? They're the same types of skills we're trying to give robots are the same ones that improv teachers try to give their students, like how to listen effectively, how to formulate effective responses, how to use gaze, gesture, body language effectively. Um, and some of it's very explicit. So one of my students who's doing work with that survivor community, for example, is developing new design methods grounded in improvisational theater, where we use role play with community members to understand um, how they're envisioning interactions with humans playing out, how they're envisioning interactions with robots playing out, and then putting robots into robot prototypes into those interactions in order to test them out. And so everything sort of comes back to improvisation because we're focused on natural human-like interaction.
Okay. So, it is one of the things that you notice when a lot of us are using, these large language models and
Mhm.
AI like Claude and things like that, that humor is probably seems like maybe the hardest thing for, uh, I don't know, robots or AI, or I guess they're kind
Mhm.
of interchangeable. Is doing this kind of thing helping train the robots?
I think it's helping us to I would reframe it from helping to train the robots to helping the robot designers to design those interactions, whether that's through large language models or not. Something that's I think important in like improv comedy is in improv comedy, people aren't writing jokes, right? The comedy comes from authentic interactions. It comes from hearing what somebody said, internalizing what does that actually mean, and reacting honestly. And the humor often comes from that sort of genuine response to something absurd that has been accidentally said, right? And so this is helping to inform robot design, which could be through how we design the prompts for large language models. If you're using large language models to control how the robot behaves, in order to figure out, well, how can that robot respond in a way that is genuinely responding to the thing the person said, or how can we design the robot's communication so that it is communicating personality in the way that we want, or conveying the specific beliefs or norms of behavior that we want to program in, instead of just having sort of the vanilla behavior that you might automatically see with ChatGPT, for instance.
Okay. Wow. So, this has got to be pretty exciting for you to see kind of like, sort of your different worlds kind of coming together, converging into this one event. So, and I'm trying to imagine what this thing
Hmm.
is going to look like.
Yeah, absolutely.
We haven't seen robots perform comedy. What can we expect to see at this premiere?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. This is sort of a merging of my different worlds, right?
Yeah.
Because my lab it's a human robot interaction lab, and we also do research on robot ethics. The two courses I teach are human robot interaction and robot ethics. And outside of the lab, I spend, 10, 15 hours a week on improv comedy. And so the show is about bringing these different things together. It's a comedy show, but it's designed to highlight ethical issues in robotics and in AI, and to do so in part through the use of robots and AI. And so the goal for the show is that every month, the month show will have slightly different acts, some of which will be comedy that is just about robotics and AI. So, for example, in our first show, we're having Casey Fiesler from CU Boulder, who is a tech ethicist, but is also a stand-up comedian, to do stand-up about what's going on in tech. We will have in every other show, starting in March, we will have a local group called Not My Robot, which is a robot themed improv group doing improv off of sort of robotics news that is delivered by one of my PhD students. So she'll recount sort of what's going on right now in the tech industry and in robotics, and then the improvisers will do comedy off of that to show all of the crazy ways that might go. And then the final piece, which is what you're getting at, is we want every show to include robotics or AI in different ways. So in the first show, we are going to have a robot on stage with the improvisers. That is the audience is providing suggestions uh, for rules that they want the improvisers to follow, and then the robot is on stage periodically injecting and delivering those rules in a way that encourages the audience to think about the ways that the rules that we give to robots to constrain their behavior inevitably leads to the robots applying those rules to other humans and thus constraining human behavior. So the efforts we have to prevent harm from robots end up controlling humans as well. In future months, we'll have different types of acts. So we'll have um, stand-up comedians doing improvised TED Talks off of PowerPoints that are generated by AI, and sort of having to see how they adapt to those constraints that are being delivered by AI. Later this semester, we will have a roboticist and comedian from Oregon coming in to do both stand-up about robotics and do a clown act with a robot she'll be bringing with her. And then we'll have
Clowns
uh,
and robots together. Wow, that
yeah,
could freak some people out.
well, clown act in terms of like clowning, in terms of like the specific form of theater that focuses on like
Right.
energy transfer. And then we'll also have a roboticist and who does stand-up comedy with a robot coming from coming from Texas. And this is somebody who's also given she's been a TED Talk speaker. She has collaborated with OK Go on their music videos. And so we're both showcasing robots that are being used in Denver in the context of robotics research, and bringing in people who are uniquely at this center of robotics and comedy from other states, to bring in other types of comedy as well.
Okay. I wanted to back up just a little bit and just ask like the most basic question. what is a robot, and what is the robot that's going to be on stage look like? At least I don't know they'll be different, but say just for
Yep.
the February 6th show, what is that thing? Does it look like the one from Lost in Space, or is it
Yeah. So I
something
mean,
else?
this is a complicated question because robots are jointly a cultural concept and a scientific concept, right? The word
Right.
robot and the word robotics came from science fiction, and then inspired engineers to turn those visions into reality. And so because of that, even like Joseph Engelberger, the father of robotics, who made the first industrial robotics arms, when he was asked what is a robot, he was asked the same question. He said, "I don't know, but I know it when I see it." Right. And so in general, if we're talking about a robot, it's a some type of physical device that was created by people, put into human environments in order to perform some tasks for people, but it's typically, especially in science fiction and pop culture, right? Typically has some type of human-like character to it as well. Of course, we have lots of robots today that don't have that type of character, right? That might be used in mining or things like that. And we'll have lots of things that seem to fit the classic definition of a robot from an engineering perspective that we wouldn't think of as robots, like a thermostat or an elevator or a dishwasher that might fit the engineering definition, but nobody would see that in a movie and say, "Oh, that's a robot," right?
Right, right.
And so it's complicated because it's tightly interwoven with science fiction. The robot we'll have in our first show is from Fur Hat Robotics. It's a robot head that can look around while it's talking. It can make different facial expressions, and it's cool because it has a retro projected face. What that means is that the face is semi transparent, and there is a projector behind it that projects onto that 3D surface, so you can have a very fine grained facial expressions. You can change the way the robot looks, like whether it looks more masculine or feminine, in order to depict different types of characters. And so it's really effective for these types of like character driven interactions. Would you want it, to be, in your agricultural robotics solution? Probably not. But
Mhm.
but it's really effective for this type of engagement with the audience.
Okay. Well, speaking of, one of the things that you're gonna have as part of this series is a robot zoo before the show. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for our very first show, we're having a special hour beforehand, where because we really want this to showcase um, what's going on at Mines, give people an opportunity not just to laugh in the show, but also to learn about robotics and about ways that robots are being used. That isn't terrible, right? There's a lot of news coming out around robotics that gives people very reasonable cause for concern, right? And there's a lot going on in robotics that is doing genuine harm to society. But there's also exciting things going on in robotics. And I think like in terms of like some of the use cases that I mentioned that our lab is working in, where we're working with organizations that work with the unhoused. We're working with survivors of domestic abuse, other types of stakeholders where we're not just trying to replace people's jobs, right? And so what we're going to do in the hour before our first show is people can come early. They can grab a drink. We'll have like robot themed cocktails. We'll have beer from Little Machine, which is a Denver based robot themed brewery. And we'll have grad students from Mines there with other types of robots that they're not going to see in the show, showing how they work, doing demos. And talking about these other ways that robots could actually help people if we thought about robotics a little bit differently.
Okay. Great. Wow, that sounds like it's gonna be a deep dive, in robots, to check this out. So with the monthly series, you alluded to some of the upcoming ones. How do you envision this evolving, over time? Have you mapped out, like, the whole year, or are you just kinda waiting to see what comes up?
I've mapped out the first 4 the first 4 months and figured out who will be performing in those. And I haven't been saying people's names mostly because just for spoilers, and to leave some room for suspense. But we've got the headliners for these shows worked out. We've figured out the acts that are actually involving the robots or AI, what those are going to look like, and we've got these set of rotating teams, Not My Robot and Subtext, which are local improv teams that are going to be doing just the fun, the most sort of purely comedic parts in the middle of the shows. After that point, we're going to be taking a 1-month break because the show is first Fridays, but the first Friday of June is the Denver Fringe Festival. And so we'll be taking a 1-month break that Friday to make sure that there's room for Fringe to be performing on the stage where we normally perform. And then after that point, we'll be back. And so I'll be looking at over these first 4 months to see what connects best with audiences and then use that to inform what the rest of the year looks like. I'll say that I'm not exactly sure what the rest of the year will hold. I've been talking with a variety of other acts from around the world about interest in performing and have identified like several acts from the UK who are interested in performing. For some of whom we've established that it's not going to be possible just because of the outrageous visa costs for non-U.S. performers to come to the U.S. But for others of them, they're already applying for U.S. performance licenses to go on tour for other cases. And so we're looking at seeing whether there might be opportunities to connect with them next semester. We'll see.
Okay. I was thinking as you're speaking about some of the opportunities that you might have with a robot, quote unquote, comedian on stage that you might not have with a human performer. Like maybe you could be more of an asshole to the robot for comedic effect, or have them describe things that might be like horribly embarrassing for a human. I mean, have you explored some of those areas?
No, we haven't. No. I mean, in general, I think we, probably don't want people to be assholes in our sets.
Be nice to the
But
robots.
with the caveat, though, that like I think part of the ways that we're looking at using robots and AI is in ways that showcase the abilities of the human performers, right? So if you've got the human performers doing improvisational comedy and the robot is interjecting in ways that is like applying these new rules, right? It's sort of showcasing the human comics ability then to adapt to that and, sort of live in this world with robots, like despite the robots, where the robots are introducing new opportunities for them to show their comedic muscles. Similarly, when we're using the AI to do the AI-driven TED Talks, right? It's still human comedians who are making all of the jokes, who are leading all of the humor, but part of the humor comes from how they react to these unexpected stimuli or unexpected, interventions. The same way that if you're getting a suggestion from the audience, you're going to have to deal with whatever that audience member suggests. You're going to have to figure out how to adapt to. And we're looking for ways that we can use robots and AI in the same way, not to make AI generated jokes, but rather to use robotics and AI that allow our comedians to shine.
Okay, got it. So as you've been kind of dabbling in this field and then leading up to this sort of more formalized synergy or meeting of robots and comedy, are there some things that have been surprising to you in terms of challenges or just opportunities or things that are really cool that you hadn't really even expected?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has been really cool is the ways that leaning into improv has really um, it helped our relationships with community partners. So I One of my goals over these past couple of years has been to try to move my research lab in a direction where we're doing more community-driven research, right? Where we're not just developing algorithms in a vacuum and saying, maybe 30 years from now this will be useful, but instead working directly with communities to have impact. And one of the things we've found is that the using improvisation and improv role-playing exercises in our research with communities has been really beneficial, both because the community members enjoy it and it gets so they enjoy it. It gets them to open up and share more with each other in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. And the organizations that are hosting us these are types of things that they would like to be providing anyways. So we do, again, like these, like, improv exercises with them. We do like what you might construe as arts and crafts, as part of like envisioning what robots for these communities might look like and how they might behave. And these types of exercises, they're not just like us going in and extracting knowledge from the community. It's us providing genuine services and activities for these community members that just happen to help us from a research perspective instead. And so I think it's been really empowering hearing my grad students come back from their from running workshops with these local community members and saying, "Oh my God, this works! This was amazing. People enjoyed it so well. They were talking in ways that they previously haven't been talking and sharing." And so I think that's just a benefit of improv more broadly. But it's been really really powerful to hear those stories.
Fascinating. Hey, one thing I didn't ask about is the theater company Dramathurgy. What
Yes.
is that? Is this the in-house theater company at Mines, or what is it?
So this is drama theurgy. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, hard to pronounce, but is sort of is
Dramathurgy.
the
Okay, got it.
the idea is combining these these concepts, like the dramatic arts and theurgy, which is this like magical practice which is associated with like divining higher truths, and like summoning and like channeling divine power, to think about ways that specifically improvisational theater can be used to encourage reflection on broader societal issues, by drawing connections with audience members in ways you might not see in scripted theater. And so this is a theater company I've started where we are doing a variety of efforts, in a variety of different types of shows. That some of which are about to be in performance, some of which are in rehearsal, some of which have just auditioned. So the first show we're doing is this Robot Riot, with this monthly comedy show, and then some of the other shows we're doing are going to be one-off shows for different reasons. So we have a show that is currently under consideration for Denver Fringe that we have pitched. That is more of like a Lovecraftian horror type improv show that is focusing more on just issues of authoritarianism. And then we have a show that we're doing that is also tech focused, that we just had auditions for and cast last week, which is an improvised Black Mirror show that we'll be doing in collaboration with Minds and CU Boulder, where we take Black Mirror episode pitches from tech ethics students at Minds and CU after they've taken a tech ethics class. And then we have improvisers do improvised Black Mirror episodes on stage off of those suggestions. And so we're hoping at the end of this spring semester to do shows at Minds and CU with those tech ethics students, and then to do shows in Denver for public audiences as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's all sounds super fascinating. I love to see, the definition of theater being expanded and morphed into new things as with technology as a overlay. That's really cool.
It's been very exciting for me as well, because I was like a musical theater kid in high school, right? And then for 10 years my art form was a cappella. I started like 4 a cappella groups, etc. And then in 2021, 2022, I started using improv in my robotics classes, but I wasn't doing it as an art form. And then in 2023, while I was on sabbatical, I was living in Bristol, England, and living a couple minutes walk from the Bristol Improv Theater, and we started seeing improvised musicals there. And I thought, wow, this is a way I could get back into singing without starting another a cappella group, and came back to the US and started doing improvised musical theater. And then it's been a real joy over these past 2 years to say, oh, wait, I can take this and connect it back to, what I'm doing in my lab, and bring the science into the art and bring the art back into the science and really find ways of those to play together. And in ways that brings me back to everything I enjoyed about musical theater in high school and college.
hmm That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Hey, before I let you go, I wanted to ask, just because this is your field, you're just steeped in this, but when it comes to robots, like say in our home,
Hmm.
it seems like that's getting ever closer. It's not
Yep.
there yet, but like, I don't know, paint a picture in 15 or 20 years. Am I going to have a robot in my house, like, helping me take a bath in my dotage or things like that? What is that going to look like for the average person, you think?
Well, that's complicated. So for the average person, I think that one of the good things we're seeing is that robot costs are coming down, right? And so you are seeing these companies like Digit, I believe, come out with these robots that stand to be home aid robots, right? And I think in elder care, for example, I think we are at a point now where we are definitely going to start seeing those more frequently, in ways that are going to allow people to like age in place. Whether those will really come down to a point where it's a accessible to everybody and not like an upper middle class and above
Right.
technology is another question. I think one of the things I'm concerned about there is even with these robots that are coming out now, even though they're very cheap, they're not autonomous, right? And even when the companies try to make them sound like they're autonomous, often they're teleoperated. So there's somebody behind the scenes, right? And so one of the risks is that, yes, we'll have these robots in people's homes helping, but what that really means is you'll have somebody who's underpaid in a different country, right? Remotely providing assistance, and you've got somebody else who's watching inside of your home while also having their labor possibly be exploited, right? And so, depending on the exact ways that these are implemented, there's real reasons to be concerned about the effects that they're going to have, like globally, on society and on economics. Of course, this isn't the way they have to end up, but there's a real concern there. On the other hand, I'm really excited about some of the advances I've been seeing with social robots in ways where those robots are not being positioned in a way where they're doing human tasks or taking human jobs. Two examples I'll give of like robots for individual, for users that I found really exciting over the past couple of years come from Brian Scazzolati's lab at Yale. One of which is a robot for like leading. It's for helping people deal with anxiety and leading them through deep breathing exercises, where the robot it expands and contracts, and
Uh-huh.
people's breathing just automatically falls in line with it. And they find themselves breathing along with it, and it's got a face, so they have like eye contact with it while it's working, and it helps it work more effectively. The other robot from their lab that I found really exciting is the way they've been using the Jibo robot, which was a robot that came out of MIT. It wasn't commercially successful because it came out at the same time as Amazon Alexa. But it's been used as a research tool, and one of the ways they're using it is for work with autistic children, not to like teach them social skills, but to like implicitly help to forge connections between them and their parents. So the child and their parent will be like reading a story, and the robot is helping to walk through the story on a tablet. And as this is happening, the robot looks back and forth between the child and the parent. And the child might initially be much more likely, due to, for example, autism, to be willing to look at the robot than to look at the parent. But because the robot is looking back and forth between them, over time, the child starts to follow where the robot is looking and looks at the parent, and this creates opportunities for eye contact between child and parent that get enforced over time. So it's not like trying to, teach like what is the appropriate way to interact, but it's creating these unique opportunities that you wouldn't get if it wasn't a robot, right? If it was just like a phone or something, it's not going to have that opportunity. The way it's able to do that is because it's able to move in the environment and look back and forth. And so I think these types of opportunities where we've got robots that are using the fact that they're embodied in the world, and the fact that they can be social to enhance human connection as opposed to like replacing somebody's job, I'm really excited about.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, I know I'm sure you could talk for hours about this. It's just a fascinating area of technology and where it's going to intersect, socially and culturally with everybody. And it's going to be a
Hmm.
wild ride to watch it all unfold. But for now, Dr. Tom Williams, thanks so much for coming on the OnStage Colorado podcast. Robot Riot, the Robot Comedy Hour has its debut February 6th at Denver's Rise Comedy, and it'll be first Fridays thereafter, except for June. And maybe something maybe you'll be involved with something at Fringe in June as well.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
All right. It seems like a perfect Fringe kind of thing. So, so thanks so much. Break legs, break gears, or break chips, whatever you would say for the robots out there. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, that guy is just so damn smart.
Yeah, he really is. And I think you said you were talking to him for a story as well. So have you already interviewed him also?
Yeah, I got a chance to catch up with Tom last week. My story about the show for Westward is published now. It's up on the site. So if folks want to learn a little bit more about I did. I guess I unfortunately did.
That's okay.
Yeah, but if you want to learn a little bit more about not only the show, but his research and his work with the lab and how improv is integrated into his lesson plans, definitely go give that article on Westward a read.
Yep, I'll definitely check that out.
All right. Well, now we are going to close out like we normally do with our top 10 Colorado headliners, which are some of the shows that are coming up in the next week or so that we think you should consider checking out. Alex, what are we starting with this week?
The Great Gatsby, the Colorado Ballet version of F. Scott Fitzgerald's very famous novel, which was originally going to be in 2021. It was delayed because of the pandemic, and so it's been long delayed, this premiere. And our reviewer, Alice Caterlin, just published her review. She said it was a fantastic production, beautifully danced, beautiful set, and everything with the Colorado Ballet Orchestra performing live. She definitely gave it a strong thumbs up.
The photos, in addition to Alice's review, really sold that production. It just looks really lavish. And
yeah,
I think Alice has been following that company and just noted that their growth over the past couple of years, she's been really impressed with, which it sounds like this is just another successful production for them.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful that we have her perspective on it because I don't know anything about ballet, and I could not go in there and make those comparisons and note the growth of the company, which she's really excited about it. She thinks it's awesome that that Colorado has this ballet company that's just really doing such great work.
100%. My first headliner this week is PUF, a completely factual and objective history of the public universal friend. This is a world premiere being staged at the People's Building in Aurora. And it is half period piece farce, half tale of queer longing, half investigation of gender and God. So, yes, for those counting, that is 3 halves. And so the story tells the tale of this woman who is reborn as a non-gendered heavenly messenger during the American Revolution who attempts to prepare humanity for the end of the world. This is being staged by a 2-cent lion in Aurora. Sounds like it's got a lot going on. Very ambitious for a world premiere. Written by Olivia Buntain. It's going to be running February 6th through the 15th. So if you're interested in a very experimental show, that one sounds like it might be for you.
Yeah. Yep. I think our reviewer, Danielle Rio, was going to go see that. She was kind of like, I don't know about this one, but I'll go check it out. So my next headliner is Fool. And this is from a theater company I've never heard of, the Greeley Garage Sale Theater. And I don't know if they're new or I just haven't heard of them before. But this is an adaptation of a novel by Christopher Moore, it's got it's something about King Lear. So this is funny. So Christopher Moore is one of those. He's like kind of a humorist novelist. Have you ever read any of his stuff?
I've read Fool. I have it on my shelf back here.
Okay. Well, I kind of think of most of his novels are kind of in the vein of like a Carl Hyacin, Dave Barry kind of. Fool is a very big departure, and I remember when I picked it up, I couldn't finish it, so maybe I need to try it again. But anyway, so this is going to be at up in Greeley through February 14th. It's at a church, I think. So if you're up in northern Colorado, you might want to check that out.
Yeah, that sounded like an interesting show. It's apparently only the second time that script has ever been done before.
Wow.
So
Could be good or bad.
it could be good or bad. That's
Yeah.
right, Alex. My next headliner is the world premiere of H.E. Double Crooked Letter at Firehouse Theater in Denver. So this show follows three Latentine cousins who have opened a gate to hell in their grandma's living room, and now they can't get it closed. It's written by the author of Cebollas and Prima's Guide to Funerals, and it takes us on a heartwarming journey to the dark side. Firehouse, actually, they originally produced this as a staged reading in 2024, and now they're getting to do its world premiere.
Wow, they got a world premiere, huh? That's pretty cool.
I know I was like, that's Firehouse is making big moves.
Yeah.
That's exciting for
Yeah.
them.
I remember, so Boyas was at the Denver Center. Primus Guide to Funerals, I saw that also. I remember not loving that one. Did Betsy do that a couple of years ago? I feel like I saw it at the Dairy. I'm not sure if it was Betsy or, but anyway, so yeah, look, go check that out. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, here's another one from Northern Colorado at the Windsor Community Playhouse through February 8th. Screwball Comedy. I don't know what kind of show this is, but something about set in the 1930s with snappy period dialogue, outrageous characters, and fast-paced humor up there in Windsor. And I think it's the Windsor Community Players that are doing that. So that's another one in NoCo if you want to check it out.
If you're looking for something funny to check out, Comedy Works in downtown location is doing Sweet Tarts on February 11th. This is a very special Valentine's Day performance featuring some of the city's sweetest and sourest comedy. It's going to have a headliner, a national headliner. It's got a host, Matt Vogel, and then a whole bunch of local Denver comics who are going to be on the bill for this show.
Denver's funniest cherubs, it says.
That's what the marketing material said. I didn't feel I needed to repeat
You didn't want to go there. Yeah.
You did,
I'm sure
so
they were
I guess we're here now.
Like, what? We're cherubs now? Okay. All right. Here's one. This is a shout out to Adam's Mystery Playhouse, which anytime anybody tells me they went there, they're always like, oh, it was so much fun. And it's, they do these corny shows. This one's called Murder at an Irish Wake, and it's running now through March 28th. Mr. Limerick has died, and we are there for his wake with singing and dancing and lots of Irish merrymaking. But things take a turn for the worse in the middle of the wake, and next thing you know, you're solving a crime. And of course, you also get dinner along with that. So that's Adam's Mystery Playhouse's show for kind of like the St. Patrick's Day, St. Patrick's section of the year, you could say.
Yeah, those shows at Adams are always a hoot. I mean, it's just rapid fire. And they're just throwing a million jokes and bad puns at you. So much audience. It's not so much audience interaction, so much they just like make fun of you,
Yes.
which I think is better. That's easier. It's less demanding.
Yep.
My next pick is over at the Buell. This is the touring production of Water for Elephants. This is swinging through Denver February 11th through the 22nd. This is based off of what apparently is a best-selling novel. I didn't know that. I had seen the movie, and now here comes this spectacle-driven musical. I am very curious to check this one out. It looks like it's got a whole lot of circus elements in it. It looks from the photos of it, it looks really visually interesting. So here's hoping that the music does not suck.
or that it doesn't start raining in the middle of the show or something like that on stage.
Yeah.
It's a
reference
to another show.
I don't think it'll get as bad as The Notebook, the musical,
right.
Alex.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like anything could be that bad. All right. My last headliner is The Games Afoot. So this is going on up the hill in Conifer at Stage Door Theater from February 6th through March 1st. This is about a Broadway star who's well known for portraying Sherlock Holmes, who must figure out who the killer is at his own estate when a cast member gets stabbed. It's a farcical whodunit mystery set in the 1930s. So if you're into a little more Holmesian, which is another one of those properties that just gets, I don't know, it's always getting done in one way or another. And sometimes good, sometimes I don't know. It's not as bad as Peter Pan,
Mysteries.
but
That's true. No, it's no Peter Pan, but mysteries, man, they just sell. People love a mystery.
they do. Yeah.
My final one, it's not a mystery. It's a bit of improv comedy, though. It's called Goblin Mode Improv. It's being performed at Western Sky Bar and Tap Room in Inglewood on February 12th. And this is an improv troupe that will listen to your tabletop RPG memories and then turn them into comedies. So it starts by them asking audience members to tell a story that happens in a real kind of D&D-esque kind of game that you've played in the past, and then the troupe will then improvise that. And so everybody who is in the troupe is trained in both improv and D&D, except for one guy named Ryan, who is the quote token normie.
I picked the name Ryan to be the token normie. That's funny.
Yeah, it seems like a fun premise for a show. I was like over in Inglewood at that tap house is a fun location.
Inglewood is not a name that we often say in relation to any kind of theater. There's really not much going on in Inglewood for theater or comedy, so that's cool.
Definitely. Well, that is it for this episode of the OnStage Colorado podcast. If you want to stay up to date on everything that is going on in theaters all across the state, be sure that you are subscribed to the OnStage Colorado Theater Blast, which is our weekly newsletter that comes out every single Thursday and just gives a rundown of what we've been up to, including new reviews we posted to the site, any news stories we've got to share, and then a rundown of all of the entries on the calendar so that you can plan your upcoming weekend.
Yeah, that is definitely the thing to get if you're into theater. So next week we have a fun interview I did with playwright and actor Edith Weiss. And I teased this last week as that we were going to run it this week, but since the show doesn't start till a little later, and I've got the robot thing and it starts this week, I switched things up. So sorry, Edith, you got bumped, but still it'll be this one. The interview will be out before your show opens. So her collection of short comedies, fierce satire and mediocre sex, is being produced by N-Toto 2 at Bunport, February 13th through 28th. And Susan Lyles, who's the founder of N-Toto 2 and director of this show, also joins in the conversation. So definitely come back for that. And then I'm in talks with Missy Moore to be on the podcast the following week to talk about her upcoming production of K2 at Thunder River Theater Company up in Carbondale. So looking forward to chatting with Missy about that.
And K2, what is that one about again?
It's about two climbers on K2, and they are stuck. So I think they're literally like hanging on ropes the entire show. And it's a sort of a quintessential Colorado kind of show, since there's a lot of climbers and mountain people here. So I don't know if I'm trying to get Kim, our reviewer in Silverthorne, to take the trek over to Carbondale to see it. Otherwise, I don't know, maybe I'll try and get up there. It sounds like a cool show. So nothing else, I'll talk to Missy about it.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing that conversation with Missy in 2 weeks, I suppose.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Yep. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for listening. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca. And we'll see you at the show.
Hey, it's Alex here, founder, editor, and publisher of OnStage Colorado. Thanks so much for listening. As other publications have stepped away from covering Colorado theater, we've stepped up. In 2025 alone, we published over 165 reviews, making sure our vibrant theater community in Colorado gets the attention it deserves. But we can't do this without your support. If you value having a dedicated source for Colorado theater journalism, please consider making a donation at onstagecolorado.com. Every contribution helps us continue this work. And if you're not already subscribed, sign up for our free weekly Theater Blast newsletter. Every Thursday morning, we deliver the latest reviews, theater news, and upcoming show listings right to your inbox. You'll find the sign up at onstagecolorado.com. Thanks again for being part of the OnStage Colorado community. We'll see you at the theater.